I'm Katie.
And I'm Beth, and we also worked with James to produce this video.
We spoke to a lady called Mrs. Cadoux about her experiences of the Blitz and working with the Quakers after the Second World War.
We participated in this project because we were interested in how stories were passed down.
We really hope that you enjoy her story.
We worked in what we would call the town hall, but we had to be lodged 18 kilometres away.
Yeah.
It was in a town called Bochum, at the very centre of the Ruhr.
Yeah.
There was a Quaker team in Cologne. We had a weekend and visited the team there. First of all, the cathedral was virtually wrecked. And what I found so interesting was, as you drove along the ordinary streets, loads and loads of houses are simply gone.
Yeah.
But the chimney stacks were still there,
Right.
sticking up. And somebody told us that people were living in those basements
Alright.
still. The conditions were absolutely atrocious for the Germans, much worse than for the Brits, because our bombing had been so very, very savage.
How were you accepted by the German people?
Fine, no problem. Because one of our jobs was taking soup to school children.
Yeah.
The Americans donated probably tens of thousands of what they called Atlantic packs.
Yeah.
They were very large tins and they contained a ration for a day for a soldier.
Yeah.
We had to employ a German in the town hall to sort through them because they contained cigarettes and lavatory paper, which you couldn't put in the soup, of course. But some miraculous German cook managed a tasty soup, which, rather like the WRVS Meals on Wheels here, we used to transport around in our... They were very big, like military ambulances. And at one school, we dispensed this in the playground, and the school teacher was with the children, and she said to me, I was fed by the Quakers after the last war, which I found very touching.
Yeah. Would you say that your experiences in Germany changed your belief of Germans in general?
I was not prejudiced against Germans anyway.
Right.
My mother was. She was a typical undereducated woman, because in her day you could leave school at 13. And as you probably learned in the First World War, people were smashing the windows of German tradesmen. But I'd been very, very lucky because I'd won a scholarship to one of what I call best schools in London.
Yeah.
And we had a remarkable headmistress. She never stated her own religious views from the podium. We used to have school assembly, of course, with the usual hymns and stuff.
Yeah.
But I reckon we were taught to feel citizens of the world.
Right.
And many years after I'd left, because I was still in touch and got the Old Girls magazine, they did a 4-page article about her. She was the daughter of a Unitarian minister, and I thought, isn't that strange? Without ever saying anything, she was inculcating Unitarian ideas into me, so that later I became one. So no, I didn't think they were monsters. The Nazis certainly were monsters, but then that was some sort of collective madness, insanity. Horrendous, absolutely horrendous. Churchill was virtually worshipped by many, many people, and certainly he did save this country. I was never a fan. When he broadcast, I did not like that growling, aggressive tone. and I found out something about him many, many, many years later. It's perhaps about 10 years ago. It was proposed to put up a statue in London to Bomber Harris, who was responsible for the firebombing of Dresden.
Mm.
And I was adamantly against this because my husband had been involved.
Mm.
He was in a camp just outside of Dresden. And an ITV film company wanted to make a programme about this controversy. They had invited as many ex-RAF men as they could find, still alive, and contracted CND here to get as many opponents to interview as they could. During the course of that programme, one of the RAF men said, "We were told that there were such enormous fires because all the houses in Dresden were made of wood." And I got chatting to a German lady in the bar before the programme began, and she sat near me and she said they were not made of wood. Medieval city, they were made of stone.
Mm.
But I realised that in order to get up the morale of the bomber pilots, they wouldn't let them know, you know, the real damage that their actual bombing have done, because you've got to be able to get them out the next night bombing again. One quality newspaper revealed quite recently that it wasn't Bomber Harris's actual decision, it was Churchill's.
All right.
In order to shorten the war. So he hoped, so he thought. Because of that utter destruction, roughly 30,000 people killed, more in one night than we lost in Britain during the whole war. Of course, we killed off a lot of their emergency services, ambulance people, policemen, and hospital services and stuff like that. So the remnants of the town council called upon the commandant of this camp, "Have you got any personnel with medical training who can come in and give us a hand?" My husband did not mention a word of his experience for 15 years, but he had mental breakdowns. One of the times he was in hospital, the psychiatrist decided there wasn't enough in his present life to account for the very, very bad state he was in. So he was given some kind of an injection, brings memories back, and he came home in the evening and told me what he told them, that it was not a case of going into the air raid shelters and carrying out bodies, it was a case of scraping them off the walls. And in classic case, you read about this, memories become buried and of course become immense, do immense harm. So my daughter made a point of taking this trip last year, and was very delighted to find that the cathedral had been entirely rebuilt. It had lain waste, you know, sort of flattened for 40, 50 years, something like that. And eventually the townspeople thought, we must get the money somehow and we must rebuild it. They managed to get hold of the original plans. It's called the Frauenkirche, and she brought back a booklet about it, of course, and it's really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
Wonderful building, and it has a book of remembrance inside for the victims, and because her father died partially as a long-term victim, she wrote his name in the book, which gave her quite a bit of satisfaction.